From the crossroads of the Ozarks, it's the OGs of podcasting, PID Radio. Welcome, I'm Derek Gilbert.
I'm Sharon Gilbert, and welcome to our living room. Of course, we are doing this in our house, as you've discovered over the last few months, that it's just easier. You get to be our age, and yes, we're going to complain later on. We're going to give you the old people report.
Yes.
But for now, we're going to talk about other things, including please download our app.
Very clever. Very clever. Yes, gilberthouse.org/app, or you can go to pidradio.com/app, and you'll find links to the app stores for iOS, Android, and Amazon Kindle Fire devices. We've also got a smart TV app if you want to download for Roku, Amazon Fire TV, Google TV, Android TV, Apple TV. Just go to their app stores and look for the Gilbert House Ministries app, and you can download so that all of our video content comes right to your big screen.
And we can make your smart TV
dumber.
Less smart. Yeah, dumber.
Well, I don't know. Given the content that's put out there on most of these networks, I'd say we're probably helping to raise the IQ.
Well, that's got a point.
That's our goal anyway.
Your little lav mic there is being readjusted.
Yeah. So if you're hearing a rustling there, it's because of that. Anyway, we appreciate you taking the time to allow us into your ears, wherever that may be. If you go to pidradio.com, we've got a whole bunch of places where you can subscribe. Of course, Apple Podcasts, YouTube Music, Spreaker, Pandora, iHeartRadio.
We've been around so long that we're just about everywhere.
We
you
are
and I
everywhere.
started March 5th of 2005.
Yeah. So that is why we say we are the OGs of podcasting.
Which we had to look up to see what it was.
Yeah, somebody called us that once. We didn't know what it meant. We thought it meant old geezers. So
I think that is what it means, actually.
Probably,
I know it's the original gangsters, but we like old geezers.
Yeah.
Because we are.
And so we've been, a few of you have been with us through this whole journey. As my goodness, how many different places have we broadcast from? Started in St. Louis. In
our basement.
And then from there we went to Columbia, but we had two different places in Columbia.
That's true. And then we went to
Shelbyville.
Yes, and we lived at 3 different places in Shelbyville.
So that makes 6 we're up to now.
Until Illinois.
Yeah, place in Charleston, and then here. So this will be our 8th location. But here I think we've been here probably as long as anywhere.
That's true.
Since we started.
We've been here for over 10 years.
Yeah. So anyway, we are settled, and we call this our bunker. It is tongue-in-cheek because they know where we live, and
they really
are
do.
Not concerned.
Well, there are lots of things in the world. We're going to talk about some serious things, some things that are less serious, and some that are literally Siri.
Siri.
As in Syria.
Yes, yeah.
But first of all, you mentioned that you wanted to talk about the claim that Iran is making, allegations against Israel that Israel used supernatural weapons.
Yeah. This is from the former editor of an IRGC-linked newspaper. And IRGC is the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps. It's sort of the Praetorian Guard around Ayatollah Khamenei, who they are the true believers in Shia Islam and the form of Shia Islam that's been developed by Khamenei and his predecessor, Ayatollah Khomeini. Shia Islam, well, no, I'm not going to go down that rabbit trail, but by the way, it's more of a aggressive form of Shia Islam than traditionally. In the past, Shia Muslims believed you could not immanentize the eschaton, as scholars would say. You can't bring on the end times. You cannot tell or provoke or encourage the Mahdi to return. He comes back when he comes back, and you can't do anything about it. And you're not even supposed to try to wage global jihad until the Mahdi returns. Well, Khomeini, from what I've read recently, actually believed that it was time for the Shias to step up and assert dominance over the Islamic world, and then, of course, the whole world.
Well, Ahmadinejad also believed that.
Right. Shias only make up 15% of the Islamic world, so they've got a big job ahead of them. But because this was the goal of Khomeini and now Khamenei, the Saudis and the other Sunni monarchies in the Gulf region they're opposed to that. That's why there's this proxy war that's been ongoing in places like Yemen, and the Syrian civil war was essentially a proxy war between the Sunnis and the Shias. Well, of course, the 12-day war took place recently, so named by President Trump, where Israel was launching airstrikes in Iran, and Iran was launching missiles into Israel. And according to this former editor, his name is Abdullah Ganji, the former editor of this newspaper, he told his followers on X, and he's got quite a few, about 150,000, that a strange phenomenon took place during the 12-day war, that Israel had deployed the occult and supernatural spirits, that after the war, a few sheets of paper were found in the streets of Tehran containing talismans with Jewish symbols. And then he went on to write that in the first year of the war in Gaza, news had leaked about Netanyahu meeting with occult specialists. A few years ago, the supreme leader stated that hostile countries and Western and Hebrew intelligence services use occult sciences and jinn entities for espionage. Genies.
Yeah, I want to stop you there. I realize you're trying to read the report, but lest our listeners think any of this is true.
No.
It is propaganda.
It is propaganda. We do not believe any of this.
No, we don't.
We are reporting this to you. This is how the true believers in Iran are trying to rationalize why they got spanked by Israel.
Exactly. And trust me, this is not how the Israeli government behaves.
It is not.
Many in government, many who are in charge and in control, are actually atheists. They don't believe in anything they say. Mm-hmm. Those who do believe in something are generally Orthodox Jews. They're not likely to use anything like that either. No.
Now, there are some, especially among the Haredim community, the ultra-Orthodox who are believers in Kabbalah and talismans and things like that.
Yeah, but they're not going to be in a position to do anything.
They're not in a position to do that, no.
Because they refuse to join the IDF.
Yes, and that is a big point of contention in Israeli society right now, because you've got the Orthodox, who are not the guys who dress in all black. Those are the ultra-Orthodox or the Haredim. The Orthodox and the secular Jews who are angry that the ultra-Orthodox refuse. In fact, there's a minister, an ultra-Orthodox minister, who is wanting to pull out of the government now because the other ministers want to start drafting young Haredim, young ultra-Orthodox men into the military.
They've been trying to do that for the last year.
Right. I was like, look, everyone else is, they've got guys in deployment and guys in the reserves who've been there for a long time, and it's tearing Israeli society apart. Mm-hmm. Guys who are away from their families, away from their jobs,
away from their farms, away from their orchards.
Right. It's a real economic burden.
It very much so. I in a way, I can understand, because the claim from the Haredim is that we're the ones praying and supporting you through prayer.
Right.
Well, fine, you can do that on the battlefield.
Yeah. Oh, no. We have to study Torah, and our Torah study is what keeps Israel. It's like, okay, look, we understand that we wrestle not against flesh and blood. Mm-hmm. But, so we as Christians also believe there is a greater reality than what is visible to our eyes, and we need to contend in prayer, through prayer, with these entities. Mm-hmm. And that is what the Haredim are saying. But at the same time, it's like that story from December 7th, 1942 was the Pearl Harbor attack. 41, okay. And it was on a Sunday morning. And in fact, this became a rather popular military song, patriotic song back in the praise the Lord and pass the ammunition.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what the rest of the Israeli people are saying to the ultra-Orthodox.
That is so true. And I just want to say again, no, Israel did not engage in this activity.
No.
I'm seeing Christians repeating this online. Right. Please do not do that. They did not engage in this. This is propaganda from Iran.
Exactly. There are those, and I've engaged with some folks, professing Christians on social media, who are convinced that the Star of David or the Shield of David, which is that six-pointed star, the two triangles, which is the symbol on the flag of Israel, is the Star of Remphan or the Star of Rephan.
It's not.
It is not. And how can we say that with certainty? Because no artifact from the ancient world, not one, zero, a null set, has been found of any depiction of the Star of Rephan or Remphan. Nobody knows what that looks like. So you cannot say the Star of David looks like it because you're saying it looks like a thing that nobody has ever seen. Mm-hmm. So, to try to claim that Israel is a government and a people that are following the occult is just based on nothing.
That is very true. Now, getting back to Iran, I just want to read something that Donald Trump posted about an hour ago to Truth, the social media site Truth. All 3 nuclear sites in Iran were completely destroyed because there are rumors going around that, no, they're fine, and they're getting ready to start them back up again, that the U.S. did not take them out, that Israel did not succeed. He says they were destroyed and or obliterated. He's got that in all caps. Mm-hmm. It would take years to bring them back into service, and if Iran wanted to do so, they would be much better off starting anew in 3 different locations prior to those sites being obliterated, should they decide to do so. Thank you for your attention
to this matter.
I want that on a T-shirt.
Yeah. So, and by the way, just to extend on that thought for just a moment, Putin has made it clear that he would prefer Iran not restart its nuclear weapons program, and said that Russia would be willing to supply uranium enriched to a level of like 3.6%, which is what you need for power. But you need uranium enriched to a 90% purity for weapons.
And that's what they were doing in
That's
Iran.
what they were doing. Yeah, they had it enriched up to 60%. As I understand the process, that is it wouldn't take much more to get it up to 90. Russia is saying no more. Stop your program. If you need it for power generation, we'll supply the uranium at 3.6% purity.
I remember probably 10 years or more ago, there were stories saying that Iran was near to 90%.
Yeah.
Now, whether that was true or not, but it was still being reported. The IAEA were allowed in, allegedly, to inspect, but I'm not sure that they were truly given access to everything.
No, and recently they had been blocked from certain sites, and the IAEA was finally saying, hey, they're getting really close now. Mm-hmm. Because I remember going back to my time as a secular talk radio host. I was afternoon host and program director of a secular conservative talk radio station. Sean Hannity was on our station, Neil Bortz, Michael Savage, those guys. Yeah. And then me in the afternoon. And back then, they were talking about, and this was when Ahmadinejad was the president, they were saying then that Iran was getting close to a nuclear weapon. Mm-hmm. So when this came around again, I kind of rolled my eyes at first until I saw the IAEA report. And yeah, Netanyahu has been kind of sounding this drum, beating this drum for a long time, which is why a lot of Westerners are like, oh yeah, Netanyahu's just looking for an excuse. But looking at the history of Israel over the last 75 years, more than 75 years now, going back to 1948, but then the experience of the Zionists who settled in what was then Palestine, beginning in the late 19th century, starting in the 1920s, and the violent attacks by Arab terrorists who were supported by a rogue MI6 agent named Jack Philby, who armed them and trained them.
Yeah, we could do an entire 2 hours on Jack Philby. We
could, because I have, yeah. All it would take for Israel to be destroyed is being wrong one time, because they are outnumbered. I mean, look at a map of Israel compared to its Muslim neighbors, and look at the history of which ones of those Muslim neighbors, Syria, Jordan at times, Saudi Arabia at times, Egypt very often, wanting to destroy Israel. The fact that Israel has managed to survive is miraculous.
Israel has a tiny sliver of land compared to all of the Arab states.
Right. And so any Israeli leader, liberal or conservative over there, has had to be very cognizant of the fact that they would only need to be wrong one time to be overrun. And they very nearly were overrun in 48, in 67, and in 73 especially. So anyway, that could be why, as Hamas has claimed, Israel has their trained killer dolphins off the coast of Gaza.
Okay.
They made this claim back in 2015 and again in 2022. Hamas said one of its divers had been killed by a spy dolphin, a Zionist dolphin.
Okay.
So, yeah, it's the same kind of thing that the Iranians were just doing. So, again, just to be really, really clear, no, we do not believe Israel used the occult or genies to overwhelm Iran's air defenses in the 12-Day War.
No, not at all. Now, getting to another kinetic action taking place in the region, in Syria. The Druze have been attacked by Jalani's people. Now, he claims, this is the guy in the suit who says he's now president of Syria, and he's trying to make nice with all the Western nations. He claims he knew nothing about this. These were rogue soldiers. Well, there are now there's some evidence indicating that he ordered it, or someone up top ordered it.
Well, what's going on is the Druze, who occupy a region of southern Syria on the border with Jordan.
And if you don't know who the Druze are, can you explain that?
Yeah, the Druze are an offshoot of Islam. They do not consider themselves Muslim. They broke away almost 1,000 years ago in the 11th century.
Didn't they believe that Jethro was...
Jethro, yes. The father-in-law of Moses is their greatest prophet. There are some who will actually go so far as to say as they descend from Jethro. So they're like descendants of the Midianites. But they believe Jethro is one of their greatest prophets. In fact, there's a Jethro's tomb at Tiberias. And there's another megalithic site northwest of the Sea of Galilee in the shape of a crescent moon. It's on the side of a hill.
Yeah, it's a place you and I would love to visit, but it's very difficult to get up to.
Difficult to get to. You can see it on Google Earth, so it's really, really big. Probably related to the cult of the moon god. There is an ancient city there at the southwest corner of the Sea of Galilee called Bet Yarach, which means temple or house of the moon god. But that crescent-shaped structure was referred to locally as Jethro's cairn. So there's a connection. Yeah, there's a connection there between the Sea of Galilee and Moses' father-in-law, which is interesting because Jethro, if he was a Midianite, should have been located down close to the Red Sea.
Yeah.
But they are not. They're Arabs, but they are not Muslim. They are not Jew. They are not Christian. And they're split between Syria, Israel, and Lebanon.
What's interesting about the Druze is that they are well known for supporting whatever their country happens to be.
Right.
If they live in Syria, then they support Syria. If they live in Lebanon, and in Israel, they support Israel. And they'll serve in the military for the country in which they live. But the Druze in the Suweida area are under attack.
Yeah, and Suweida is that region in the southern part of Syria, on the border with Jordan. There was actually, after World War I and the collapse of the Ottoman Empire, an independent Druze state. There's a mountain down there that's called Jebel al-Druze, which is the mountain of the Druze. But the larger region around it, Suweida, is where most of the Druze in Syria live. There are some up near Damascus. There are some along the Golan Heights. Israel, after Bashar al-Assad was run out of Damascus back in December, had the IDF go into Syria to occupy a buffer zone, which included about a half dozen of those Druze villages along the border. For years, since Israel captured the Golan Heights in 1967, which meant that a lot of the Druze that had formerly been Syrian citizens now became residents of what is now Israel, although the United States is the only country that recognizes the Golan Heights as belonging to Israel. The rest of the world is like, no, that's occupied Syria. Okay. Good luck for Syria getting it back, because Israel's not going to give it back, nor should they. That high ground overlooking the Sea of Galilee, it's the region north and east of the Sea of Galilee, is very strategically important. You can have guys up there with mortars just lobbing shells into Tiberias and other Israeli settlements around the Sea of Galilee. Anyway, Israel occupied that border zone as a buffer against what HTS, the Al-Qaeda in suits might do, Hayat Tahrir al-Sham. But the Druze wanted the Israelis to come in because the Druze on the Syrian side of the border have been skirmishing with Sunnis for years, ever since the civil war started back in 2011, but especially the last few years. And this year especially, going back to April, there have been violent skirmishes with the Bedouin, who are Sunni Muslims. And this has really led to, I think, in the most recent skirmish, some 600 dead.
Yes, but to get back to what I mentioned, it's Jelani's army who have been these bunch of terrorists, actually, that have been going into the area, and they've been humiliating these Druze men by just cutting off their beards. Recently, an 80-year-old man was humiliated that way. He ended up dying. They've been raping women. They've been burning churches. They have been going after Alawites, Christians, and Druze.
That is true. And in western Syria, the Alawites, which is an offshoot of Shia Islam, and Christians have been targeted, and many of them have been killed here in the last few months.
And Israel is trying to stop that.
Israel's trying to stop it, and that's why Israel was launching airstrikes into Syria to, they hit some tanks coming south from Damascus that were headed towards the Suweida region. According to the government in Damascus, and that's, I think, a government in name only, because Syria really is divided into semi-autonomous regions. I mean, HTS controls Damascus and the region around it, but then you've got the Druze who basically are saying, we're not going to tolerate this Islamist government in Damascus to tell us what to do. And I don't think the Kurds, even though the Kurds have kind of reached a peace deal with HTS, I don't think the Kurds in the eastern part of the country are really being governed by Damascus either. The question is, and this is what's really difficult, is I've been trying to understand what's going on there, because there's the information that's coming out is coming from very partisan sources on both sides. So you've got Sunni Muslims on the one side saying it's the Druze who are committing atrocities against the Bedouins and slaughtering Bedouins. And there does appear to be some incidents where Bedouins have been killed. This most recent wave of violence started a week ago, where when a Druze merchant driving a vegetable truck was abducted by Bedouins, and he was beaten. His merchandise was stolen, and he was released in a city far from where he was headed, apparently in critical condition. The Druze responded by attacking Bedouins, and then the Bedouins responded, and Bedouins from elsewhere and Bedouins are just, they're not like, I don't know, gypsies would be sort of like people who don't have permanent itinerant. There are Bedouins in Israel, in the Negev, and some of them serve in the IDF and are, very loyal citizens of the government of the state of Israel. Just as in Syria, they appear to be loyal citizens following whoever's in Damascus. But this is more of a Sunni versus Druze thing, and so you got the Sunni side of the story coming out on social media. The Druze are attacking us and slaughtering us, and then you've got the Druze on the other side. And from what I've seen, I think the Druze tend to be more believable There was a really awful video that was shown of a hospital in the city of Suweida, where the staff and many of the patients inside the hospital had just been
killed in their beds,
killed in the halls, and it's just awful. Saw another video that had been posted of Druze men in Suweida. They appeared to be in some sort of an apartment building, and they were being forced to jump off the balcony, and the Bedouins were shooting them as they were jumping.
Yeah.
Now the question
there
is,
have also been beheadings, by the way,
and beheadings. So the question is now, what role are the HTS security forces, I guess, for lack of a better term, the Syrian government security forces, are they taking part in this or not?
Well,
they said that they were going down there to try to calm things down and put a stop to it, but according to some of the Druze sources, they were actually making things worse. So,
and by the way, the Druze asked Israel for help very early on.
Yeah, and I started to go here, and then I distracted myself again, shiny object. When Israel captured the Golan Heights, suddenly there were families that had been divided, because now you had some of them on the Israeli side of the border and others on the Syrian side of the border. And for the last 60 years, they would gather at the border with megaphones back and forth. So how are things? Back and forth to communicate back and forth. Now they use WhatsApp or whatever to talk back and forth. But when this story broke this past week, the Israeli Druze and the Syrian Druze, or at least the spiritual leader of the Syrian Druze, asked Israel for help, asked the world for help, but specifically Israel. And that's why the IDF got involved.
That is very true, but they had asked Israel for help prior to that when HTS took over.
Right.
And it was clear that there was going to be an issue there in the Suweida region. Those Druze contacted Netanyahu and asked if they could maybe even become part of Israel.
Yeah. They would like Israel to annex that portion of Israel. Now, there is...
let me just finish this. How do we know this? We have insiders in Israel.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The Lipkin family, Avi Lipkin, does a podcast on YouTube every Tuesday. He does it live, so you can participate in this. And he said long ago that this is what had happened. And he predicted a lot of what's happened, down to the very, events.
Yeah.
He is a genius when it comes to geopolitics.
Yeah, he's very plugged into what's going on over there. And we watch his, and I'll put a link in the notes, make myself a note to add to the notes, that Avi's weekly update from the Middle East, and he's been talking about this, how Israel may well establish a buffer zone, if nothing else, in southern Syria that would extend all the way to the Euphrates and connect up to the Kurdish areas because the Kurds are in control pretty much of everything east of the Euphrates River in Syria. And the Kurds are allies of the Israelis, as are the Druze. The spiritual leader of the Syrian Druze, a fellow named Hikmat al-Hijri, issued a statement on Thursday. I'm doing math here. No, on Wednesday of this week, asking for Trump, Netanyahu, Mohammed bin Salman, and King Abdullah of Jordan to step in to save the Druze from the Syrian government. So he was basically putting out a call to the other Sunni governments in the region. Now, why would they respond to this when Ahmed al-Shara, who's the leader of the HTS government in Damascus, is also Sunni? King Abdullah, Mohammed bin Salman, they are royalty. They are kings. And they then want to keep a lid on the fundamentalist Sunnis who are all about, hey, let's conquer the world for Allah.
Yeah, they'd like to keep their thrones.
They'd like to keep their thrones, and violent jihad is not a good way to do that, especially if you're going up against say, the United States or Russia or China, all three of which would have a real problem with being, becoming part of the Ummah, the Islamic world.
Also, both King Abdullah and MBS have been very friendly with the West, in particular Trump.
Yeah. And behind the scenes, also very cooperative with the Israeli government. They've got to be careful because they know they've got a lot of people inside Jordan and inside Arabia who are pro-Arab when it comes to the Palestinian Arabs. But again, Mohammed bin Salman is quoted as having said privately, I don't care about the Palestinians, but my people do. So I have to make a show of, pretending that they... But he's also told the Israelis, look, if you want to normalize relations with us, you will crush Hamas. You will eliminate Hamas.
Well, let me just bring this in. Since PID Radio is all about peering into darkness, we look at the spirits behind we look at the theopolitics behind the geopolitics. The Lord himself, Jesus, told us that there would be nation against nation. It actually says ethnos against ethnos, wars and rumors of wars. This is tribal warfare, and we are seeing that exact thing taking place in the Middle East and elsewhere in the world. It's beginning. We're starting to see it here in the United States. I think spiritually, we're seeing the spirits behind these tribes at war with one another, using the humans to do their bidding. They consider themselves kings, and some call themselves queens. So these are entities that have ruled for millennia, and they have warred for millennia because they're all trying to get it's like musical chairs, musical thrones. There are only so many, and there's one in the middle that's higher and more important than the others, and everybody wants that one. They all want to be sitting in that one when the music stops.
Yeah. Satan has been described as a king by Jesus in Matthew 12, verses 22 through 26. He clearly is the leader of the end times rebellion when you look at Revelation 12. But there are other entities out there, like the woman who rides the beast, like the beast himself, like Abaddon, Apollyon, who I think would all want to be the one who ends up on the throne of God the Father.
Yes, well, Ephesians 6, that tells us all we need to know about confirming that there are entities in charge of the world. We're not fighting human beings.
Right.
And yet that's what we want to do.
Yeah. Because at least we can see them. That's an enemy we can see. It's a little disconcerting to realize, you can't actually see the enemy that you're fighting.
Yep.
But that's what Paul wrote in Ephesians 6. And I would suggest that Paul knew whereof he wrote.
You think so?
Yeah.
You just looked at the time.
Just checking at the time, so we need to take a break.
Well, we do, but we're going to... There's another serious thing to talk about, and then a couple of...
Silly things.
Well, one of them's not terribly silly, but I think it's going to take us into the future, which is where we're all going to be.
Yeah, that's where we'll spend the rest of our lives.
I know.
That's why we want to know more about that. So don't go anywhere. PID Radio continues. You were born on a battlefield. Now, see where this long war began and where it ends. Israel. Join Derek and Sharon Gilbert and special guest Carl Tykrib in the Holy Land this October, where you'll see things like this. Jerusalem. Israel's Stonehenge, Gilgal Rephaim. The Temple Mount. Joshua's altar. Shiloh and the red heifers. And the gates of hell. Join Derek and Sharon Gilbert and special guest researcher, author, and lecturer Carl Tykrib in Israel October 19th through 30th, 2025. This is not the typical tour of Israel. For information and to reserve your place on the 2025 Gilbert House Tour of Israel, please log on to gilberthouse.org/travel. That's gilberthouse.org/travel. Welcome back to PID Radio. I'm Derek Gilbert.
I am Sharon Gilbert, and we want to remind you that we are still going to Israel. We have made the confirmation with Lipkin Tours. Yes, we are going October 19th.
Yep, October 19th through 30th of 2025. We do have to announce that due to unforeseen circumstances and events beyond our control or the control of Carl and Leanne Tykrib, they will not be able to join us.
This is the Lord's will, because I got to tell you, the way that Tykribs have responded to this, there was a problem, a fire, I think, that happened in the little town where they live there up in Manitoba.
Plumas, Manitoba.
And, Carl has decided he would empty out his library. So that this building, which is gone, can be replaced with his building.
There was a fire in the community there that destroyed
their grocery store.
The grocery store, essentially a general store. Mm-hmm. And unlike here in the Ozarks, where you've got towns about every 10 miles apart, which means you've got a Dollar General every 10 miles.
Pretty much.
Up there, if you don't have access to the general store for groceries, you have to drive 50 miles to Winnipeg or maybe 25 miles and then do your grocery shopping at a gas station, which is not really ideal. So the only other building in this community that is sizable enough to quickly rebuild the store, to quickly put a new store back in town for the local residents, is the building that Carl owns for his library. So when I called him the other day and we were talking about the situation this fall, he said, look, I'm in the process of boxing up all of my books. Why? He's got to find a place to store all of them, and then they'll have to find another building for them. His library
is big.
It's the size of a small town library. It really is. I mean, he's got library shelves in there that are filled with books about, a lot of theological books, but also books on the occult. He's doing research into what New Agers, occultists, and so forth believe so that he can report back on what they are teaching and what they are believing. Anyway, he said it's probably best if we're not traveling this fall because it's going to take them a while to get all of these books packed, moved, unpacked, restored, to set up a new library.
Right. So he is, he's answering the call. The Lord has said, boy, you really have a need here. And Carl absolutely said, Chenene, here am I.
Yeah. So anyway, it'll just be the two of us, and it looks like it's going to be a relatively small tour. It looks like just one bus this time.
I love that, though. That was my favorite thing about the Solidarity Tour. We were all on the same bus.
Yes. So if you're interested in joining us in what will be a small group, rather than being one of a large group, and there's a lot to be said for having a larger group too, because you get together, you have the evening sessions, and a lot of people asking questions and back and forth, and that's really engaging and energizing. But we can all sit together at meals. We get to know one another better. It's more of an intimate tour, and so if you're interested in joining us, we are going, barring something really, really unexpected.
No, I think we're going to be going. GilbertHouse.org/travel.
Yeah.
And you can still register. It's not too late. And we've had people register right up almost to the day that they were to leave. The trick is that the later you sign up, the less likely you are to get some really good connections on the flights.
Yeah.
You might end up going through like 5 different airports or something to get there, but you can still get there. Also, you will, if you've already signed up, listen carefully. You've probably gotten an email from Brenda from Lipkin Tours informing you that you need to get your visa in advance. That's how things are now. It's pretty easy to do, costs like $12.50. But there's a website through the Israeli government for you to get your visa in advance. You can't get on the plane unless you have done that.
Yeah, it is called an ETA visa, and it's actually $7.50.
Oh, sorry.
25 shekels. So I will I was supposed to do this last week. My bad, I didn't do it. But I will have it in the show notes this week. There is a link to the site where you can apply for your ETA-IL visa.
And I just want to make sure you understand. Brenda sent out 2 emails. The first one had the wrong site. The second one has the correct site.
Yeah.
And Derek will put the correct site link in the show notes here. So make sure you go to the one that is actually through the government of Israel. There's another one that has been put up, and it may or may not be trustworthy, so please go to the one through the government of Israel. And again, this is simply so they know who's coming. In the past, you got to Israel, and that's when you got your visa. Now you have to get it before you go, but that's okay.
Yeah. Again, it's just a very modest fee, $7.50, 25 shekels. It's, very affordable.
Mm-hmm.
So,
I can hear the dogs
starting to shuffle back in their crate back there.
Yeah, I'll give another few minutes. But there are things going on in the world. One of them has to do with certain files that the government has been told to release about a certain person who died in prison. I'm not going to say his name because that name sometimes triggers algorithms.
Triggers the algos.
You know who we're talking about.
Yeah, and this became a real point of contention and a political albatross around Trump's neck this past week.
Well, very much so.
Right.
But he did this wonderful sort of...
Well, actually, there were two things that happened this week that I think have completely flipped this on its head. I was talking to Joe Horn about this last night. Joe called and...
I did. You didn't tell me that this morning.
No, Joe...
I can't say I'm surprised.
Every now and then needs to be talked in off the ledge.
Well, he gets very concerned about what's going on in the world.
Right.
And it's easy to get lost in the geopolitics.
And he's very passionate.
Forget about the theopolitics.
Yeah, very passionate about this.
He is.
So a lot of President Trump's base had gotten very upset that these files, which Attorney General Pam Bondi had promised early on, they're on my desk.
Well, I think the word list.
The list. She didn't say list.
She never
said
said
the
list.
files are on my desk for review.
Right.
And I think it was assumed by people that the so-called list, a client list, was part of those files. And then 2 weeks ago, suddenly it's like, well, we've reviewed it. There's nothing to see here, and move on. And there was no foul play connected with the passing of said person. Well, a lot of people got really angry about that. It's like, okay, why is this now being covered up? Because there's a real sense of justice. I mean, one of the things that I think a lot of President Trump's supporters wanted to see was justice for those who had been victimized. Mm-hmm. And I get that. I really do.
So.
But when you're dealing with somebody who was probably connected to intelligence, and that was the claim of the U.S. Attorney, Alex Acosta, then U.S. Attorney, back in 1999, where he cut the plea deal for said person, that he was told that said person belonged to intelligence and to leave it alone. So he cut him a sweetheart deal where said person...
We'll just say Mr. E.
Mr. E, there we go, was in jail at night, but then during the day could get out and do whatever he wanted. So he was allowed to continue his activities. Yeah, I know. It was like a work release program.
Yeah.
So Acosta was vetted by the Trump team in 2016, coming in, became labor secretary, and then in 2019, when Mr. E was finally charged and imprisoned, Acosta had to step down because of the scandal. So, all right. This week, two things happened that have kind of flipped things on its head. Number one, President Trump directed Attorney General Bondi to release or to request that the courts release the transcripts of the grand jury hearings in the investigation into Mr. E. Mm-hmm. Now, a friend of ours, and I told him I was going to use his name here, so John, I hope you don't mind, John Fryer, a friend of ours who is a former career prosecutor, so he's an attorney who understands how this is going on, or what's going on here, was able to share some insight.
I'm going to let you continue to share this because it's a little bit to unpack. And I'm going to let the dogs out back.
Just click the bottom there.
Well, I've done that before and it's not worked.
Yeah, try it again. Just do the click. There you go. Okay. John said this: grand jury testimony is secret. It is always secret. It has always been secret. It has been secret in grand jury proceedings for centuries. And that's because you want to protect the witnesses in the investigation that leads to the prosecution of suspects of crimes. So it's not likely that the court is going to release this information. So what's happened is President Trump hasn't ordered the release of the files. He's ordered Attorney General Bondi to ask the courts, to petition the court to release the grand jury transcripts. The court is probably going to say no, because grand jury testimony is secret for good reason and has always been secret. But now it puts the onus on the court instead of on Bondi, who really put egg on her face and on President Trump's face by promising to release things that were not within her power to release. As John explained to me in a note, the executive branch of government is outlined in Article 2 of the Constitution. The judicial branch is their rights, responsibilities, duties, powers are delineated in Article 3 of the Constitution. Just click it.
I did.
Click it again. Yeah, you click it just fast. There. If you don't if you do too long, it just actually turns the power off.
Okay, gotcha.
So anyway, as John explained, what Pam Bondi did as an officer of the Article 2 branch of government was promised to give up information that belonged to the Article 3 branch of government, which she didn't have the power to do.
Right.
She should have known better.
Mm-hmm.
As the former Attorney General of the state of Florida, she should have known that that was not within her power to release. So now, anyway, with President Trump saying, okay, I've directed the Attorney General to petition the court to release all the well, let's get it all out there. The court's going to say no, but now it'll be, what's the court trying to hide?
Let me just read what he posted. President Trump posted 2 hours ago to Truth. I've asked the Justice Department to release all grand jury testimony with respect to Mr. E.
Mm-hmm.
Subject only to court approval.
Right.
That's the line. With that being said, and even if the court gave its full and unwavering approval, nothing will be good enough for the troublemakers and the radical left lunatics making the request. It will always be more, more, more. And he's right.
He is right. Now, here's the other thing that happened that I think have basically brought the Trump supporters, the MAGA movement, if you will, back behind President Trump. There's a lot of people getting angry at the president, especially when he started criticizing his own supporters for saying, why are you still talking about this? Mr. E is gone. He's and we're doing all these other things. And as I said to Joe, I can understand to a point President Trump's frustration. He's got multiple fires that he's trying to put out, plates that he's spinning, and a lot of things that he's doing that are really showing results. The tariffs are actually resulting in a surplus in the U.S. Treasury. The month of, I think June was the most recent, or maybe it was May, one or the other, showed a surplus because of the tariffs that were collected from countries that had been unfairly protecting their markets from American goods. Suddenly, like, hey, wait a minute, this is a win. He's getting China back to the negotiating table to negotiate a fair trade deal. He's trying to get Putin and Zelensky to sit down and negotiate a deal. Zelensky's being unreasonable. Of course, then you've got things blowing up in the Middle East and other things. The border is secure. The number of encounters at the southern border has dropped to almost nothing within 6 months of President Trump taking office. And this is after years of Republican and Democratic presidents saying, we can't do nothing. We want to stop it.
If only Trump were Prime Minister of the UK.
Yeah, turning the boats around.
Yeah.
I think there'd be some rubber rafts sinking in the channel.
Oh, yeah. And France would get a whole lot of those guys coming back.
Coming back, right. So anyway, there are a lot of things that are going well. And so I can understand President Trump getting a little upset at his base fixated on Mr. E. Mm-hmm. But this week, okay, let's get the court to release it. Court's going to say no, as John Fryer suggests, because grand jury testimony is always kept secret. And then it's like, hey, look, we ordered it. The court's not releasing it. What are they trying to hide? Mm-hmm. So now the onus is going to be on them. The other thing was the Wall Street Journal article published Friday morning claiming that President Trump sent Mr. E a birthday card years ago with very crude language and a cartoon drawing. Ostensibly, this is the claim in the article, of a nude woman. Like, oh, okay. But they don't actually have this letter.
Oh, they're just saying, I'm sorry, but you can't...
Yeah, well, the article for the Wall Street Journal, the reporter who wrote the article for the Wall Street Journal was responsible for one of the articles written back in 2016 that led to the Russiagate hoax and the collusion hoax.
And didn't we see that Trump is going to sue?
Yeah, Trump said he's going to sue the bleep off of Rupert Murdoch. Now, I wasn't even aware that Rupert Murdoch was now the owner of the Wall Street Journal.
Yeah.
Yeah. So suddenly you've got this fake news article out there that hit, and President Trump's base is like, oh, here we go again. More fake news trying to make the president look bad. Now, let's be honest. If this was a legitimate thing, because President Trump said, look, I don't talk this way. I don't draw cartoons.
It would have been used during that campaign.
It would have been used during, either 2016 or the 2020 campaign or the 24 campaign.
Yeah.
They would have pulled this out sooner. So suddenly now his base is back behind him again because, we almost forgot. It's Trump against the deep state, and the deep state is,
Let me just shift gears to something else that's in the news right now. And if you don't follow anybody on X, if you're not on X, you're missing a lot. Elon Musk posts a lot over there. And he has an artificial intelligence algorithm, an AI, that answers questions, can do videos for you, can do images for you, can edit images, can do a lot of things. It's called Grok. And there's a fourth version of Grok now that's integrated into X. Grok 4 is also now being integrated into all of the Tesla vehicles. So this is called Annie, A-N-I. It's short for anime because these are anime-like companions that look like they're straight out of those anime cartoons. So somewhat voluptuous females and hunky males. You can choose your companion. You can choose to name your companion as you will. And that companion will ride with you in your Tesla. In fact, I read one review at X of the new Grok companion algorithm that he had Grok read to him or tell him stories. Some fiction, some nonfiction, tell me about the news, tell me a story, whatever, for a long drive. And he seemed to be just gushing. It was a love letter to Grok review. This is leading us into a very dangerous near future. In other words, the future is practically here. Your children are going to grow up in vehicles and online. They're going to be they're going to be in a soup of companion-driven entities that are going to shape their reality.
Yeah. In fact, I'm just looking at the Tesla website. This is for the Tesla automobiles, and there's a page devoted to Grok. What is Grok? Is Grok available on all Tesla vehicles? How do I know which infotainment processor my vehicle is equipped with? Do I need to sign up with or subscribe to Grok to enable Grok on my Tesla vehicle? We will occasionally use Grok for things like, for example, on the articles that I post to our Substack account, the featured image that goes with the article, I will often have Grok generate that.
Oh, yeah, he does It's so tempting to say he because it interacts with you. Like when I'll ask it a question or ask it to do a drawing for me or whatever, it will say it's been a pleasure working with you, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
It can seem like a person.
Yeah,
but it's a collection of code.
There are people who should know better, but this really isn't even a new thing. There was a story that goes back to the 1960s where a psychologist worked with a programmer to develop an algorithm that would respond to text prompts. It was supposed to be sort of an automated therapist, but the point of the exercise was supposed to be the limits of such a thing. And yet when the psychologist had his secretary interact with it to ask it questions or have it respond to questions from this so-called automated therapist, she, after a short while, asked him to leave the room so she could communicate with it privately, because she was convinced that she was having a conversation, even though she knew it was a computer. And bearing in mind, this was back in the 1960s. You're dealing with computers the size of, rooms. She found herself, even knowing what she was doing, engaging in what was a conversation with an artificial entity. So today, the large language models are more advanced and able to respond in ways that are even more human-like than they could back in the 60s.
Come on in.
So people are finding themselves...
the dog's in. Come on in. You don't want to come in? You remember there was a Twilight Zone episode? I think it was Twilight Zone. He did another one step beyond. It had Wally Cox as the programmer, and it was one of those computers that took up an entire room back in the day.
Yeah.
And it was text prompt, and it would spit out this little piece of paper with the answer. And it fell in love with him.
Well, and then there was the other one where you had the Twilight Zone episode with William Shatner and a woman at a diner in a small town with the little, put in a nickel and ask a question.
A devil bobblehead.
Yeah, with a little devil bobblehead. You ask a question, it would spit out a little piece of paper. Sort of like asking the magic 8-ball for questions. We humans tend to anthropomorphize things. These large language models are getting really good about emulating the style of a human on the other side. There are people now who are spending all day talking to their companion, their AI companion. And in extreme cases, people are becoming convinced that they're talking to a deity, or that the AI is putting them in touch with a deity, or the AI is convinced the human that the human is a deity.
You're a chosen one.
Exactly. Yeah. So it is really disturbing. The enemy is using some really advanced tools now to break up the human family as God has designed it. Because when we are united as a family, father, mother, children, we are like a military unit on the battlefield. I think I've said this before, that a wise pastor I once heard at a men's conference made the comment that the family is the smallest battle formation in the supernatural war, the spiritual war, which is why the enemy wants to tear us apart. If you're alone on the battlefield, you've got no covering fire. You've got no backup. So it's no wonder that the enemy is using things like, well, again, don't want to trigger an algorithm, but a lot of things that will distract us and get us away from the natural relations that God intended for us.
That is so true. The Lord himself said, where two or more are gathered in my name, there am I in the midst of them. It only takes two to have a military unit, two people praying together for the same thing. But I'll tell you what, if you are living by yourself, if you are all alone in your household and you feel like you don't have that other person, talk to somebody online if you have to, but talk to Jesus. You are still a battle formation. I'll tell you what, the effective prayer of a righteous man availeth much. Mm-hmm. It doesn't say that righteous man is with someone else. It's saying someone on his or her knees terrifies the fallen realm. You start praying, and I'll tell you what, that is the loudest volley of ammunition you can possibly hear.
Right. Which is hard to remember when we're seeing what's going on in the natural realm around us.
But the fallen realm want us to fixate on the geopolitics, to fixate on the problems around us. And they may be, look, they're genuine problems. You might, how do I pay for groceries this week? Mm-hmm. How do I buy those new shoes my grandchildren need? I want to help out. How can I put gas in my car? My car's broken down. How do I pay the mortgage? How do I find someone to live the rest of my life with? There are so many real life issues that the enemy wants you to fixate on. The Lord is there to help you with those things. And no, he doesn't always help immediately. Sometimes he helps you through the long way round. Mm-hmm. You will go through other things before those things are
your fixed. Wilderness experience.
Exactly. You'll look back on it. Derek and I have been through this so many times. And he and I both look back on our lives and we see those wilderness experiences that felt like they were going to last forever. And it was so hard to get through them. And yet we look back on them, and not only do they seem like a blip in our history, we can see why we went through them. And I know many of you listening, you know what I'm talking about. You can do the same thing. And if you're listening and you're younger, and you're thinking, okay, just old people talking. Yeah, we are. We're older people talking.
Yeah.
But we're farther down the road than you are.
Yep.
And we can see back at where you are along that road. And we know that you've got some tough things ahead of you in many cases. But trust me, when you follow the shepherd as a sheep, there are times when you're going to have a great, easy journey. Mm-hmm. Boy, clear water, great grass, and then suddenly you're walking up a barren hill.
Yeah. Or descending into the valley of the shadow of death.
Yes, but it's all for a reason.
Right.
So when you feel like you're all alone or you're going through stuff, turn to Jesus.
Yeah, you are never alone. You know, I'm glad you took the conversation in that direction because I had, as we were talking about the Trump Mr. E thing, was going to pivot into the release of information by Tulsi Gabbard, who's the director of national intelligence now, about the conspiracy by the Obama administration to try to,
and that's to divide us.
Well, it is, but my point is this: that fixating on the political aspect and the political realm is what the enemy is trying to get us to do. And I recognize, because you often have to counsel me to pull back. Just that, I joked, I've got to pull Joe back in off the ledge. Well, you're the one pulling me in off the ledge. Yes, there was anyone who's been paying attention, and especially if you follow, there's a wonderful political blog called The Last Refuge, where the authors there do a really, really good job of digging into what's going on behind the scenes in Washington, D.C. So what Tulsi Gabbard released yesterday afternoon on X is no surprise. What John Brennan, what James Comey did, and the fact that Obama was part of this is no surprise to you whatsoever. Right. What is a surprise now that it's being reported by the corporate media, and it's like, because they've spent years saying, no, that's just a conspiracy, that's just a lie. And there are people on the left who won't believe it anyway and still believe that Trump is, Putin's puppet, whatever.
Yeah.
Will anyone be prosecuted for this? I seriously doubt it.
No, of
but
course
the point
it's not
is this:
happen.
Let's not get upset because, again, vengeance is mine, saith the Lord. I will repay. And ultimately, we're not going to save anybody at the ballot box.
No.
Salvation comes through grace by faith in Jesus Christ.
Amen. And our job hasn't changed. We
Yeah.
are to lift up Christ crucified, risen, and coming again.
Yeah. So,
Love others as we love ourselves. Love the Lord with our heart, soul, and mind.
right. So anyway, I'm glad you took it into the direction you did as a reminder that we need to focus on that
Well, you know,
and our
that's
mission that Christ gave us, and not on the latest talking points that are being put out there by Fox News.
well, that's kind of where I try to go in my podcast, The Armored Sheep, and I don't get to do it every week because sometimes things get in the way. But I realize that my topics and my talk aren't very clickbaity, and so I don't get tens of thousands of views, and I don't really care. I really don't. Those of you who watch every time I post a new one, thank you very much for doing that. Thank you for sharing. But my whole thing about the Armored Sheep is that it's speaking to the flock, those of us who call Jesus our Savior and our Shepherd. Mm-hmm. And just a reminder that sometimes it's a little tough going up that hill or into that valley of the shadow of death, whatever it is. The Lord's leading, and He's leading you in a particular direction for your sake. You know, it's to make you stronger, to get you prepped, to show something to the fallen realm.
Yeah.
But now we get to the old people report.
That is correct. Yes. It's about that time.
It's about that time. The Geezer report, brought to you by Gold Bond Powder. I'm joking. We do use that, though.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's
Pretty
good
great
stuff.
But we'll have your report first.
Well, just not much to report this week other than things seem to be moving in the right direction. As I've said before, the numbness that was progressing up my legs as my immune system attacked my nerves in my lower legs and feet has stopped, and I'm beginning to be able to move my feet a little bit. And this is just a really tiny amount of movement, maybe 1/8 of an inch. I can't even lift them against gravity yet.
But that's a victory.
Yeah.
That's a thank you, Lord.
Because a few months ago when they did the nerve conduction test, there was nothing going on below my ankles.
Yeah.
I mean, I can still feel, but they're about half numb, I still have feeling in my feet, but I can't move them. My toes are mostly paralyzed. I can move them on my right foot just a little bit, but beginning to be able to lift my foot, which is important because when your feet drop as you walk, when they just sort of flop, it's very easy to trip over your own toes. Mm-hmm. Which is why I wear braces when we have to go out to keep my feet from flopping like that. Because even before all of this, the risk of me tripping over my own feet was always there. So anyway, it does seem things are moving in the right direction. Weight has stabilized, which is good. I'm back to the weight I was at before all of this started. If you go back and look at, say, the daily 5 and 10 updates from January, February, you'll see that I was starting to look pretty thin. I was down in the mid 170s, which was a weight I hadn't been at since high school.
Yeah. I think you got down to 173 or so.
About that. And again, that's as light as I've been in.
Yeah. And you put those 20 or so pounds back on.
Those 20 pounds are back on. So, and more of it is muscle this time around.
Really good.
So, getting upstairs is easier than it was a couple of months ago. And thanks to our friends, the Thomases, we've got a recumbent bike that we were gifted. So working the quads to try to help that out. And I'm confident with the Lord's help that when we come to October, I'll be able to keep up. So looking forward to that.
And my Geezer report, I had my left eye worked on, surgery for the cataract on Thursday. And so I'm 2 days post-op. And yesterday I had my one-day post-op exam, and they're very happy with my progress. My cornea is still slightly swollen, so it's going to take me a while to get the complete acuity in the left eye, but it's much better. And it's kind of funny. Many of you have had cataract surgery. You know what I'm talking about. Not only do you see more clearly through it, but when I compare my left eye with my right eye, which still has cataract in it, there's a slight color differentiation. But the lens, many of you have asked what lens I got. I got the Panoptics. Yes, I'm a Panopticon.
Oh, sweet.
I can see everything now. No, it gives me, it's like a trifocal. It allows you distance, far, and intermediate and near. So once I get really used to it, it's getting your brain used to how you accommodate's probably the wrong word, but how you interpret the new signals coming in. The size of the implant itself is slightly different than my original organic lens, so it's my brain is still dealing with it, but it's much better, and I can already read smaller type, not the giant type that I had to use. I can change the contrast a little bit. So I know on the 31st, when I get my second eye done, that probably by mid-August or so, the two eyes should be starting to settle in and work together really well. So I'm excited. I told Derek that I have a piano here in the house. It's an electric piano that he got me for Christmas, but we have a piano in the barn, and that is a family heirloom that's like over 100 years old.
Yeah, great-grandmother bought it from Montgomery Ward, bought it on installment from Montgomery Ward.
It's the reviews at the time and even since, it's considered a very fine piano. Just needs to be tuned and have a little work done on it. But I love playing the piano. I'm not that great. I faked my way through a lot of it, but I managed to convince people I can play hymns really well. I used to play in church back in Illinois. But I was having trouble reading the music. I couldn't quite see the music. Is that an A or a B? What is that? So now I can see it relatively well, and only one eye is done. So I'm excited. I'm going to be able to read again, to write again, to play the piano again. Life is good. So that is my Giza report. Thank you, Jesus.
Amen to that. Well, next weekend. Next weekend we're going to be in Ohio, so there will be no PID radio next Saturday, as we'll be in the middle of the Go Therefore conference.
Yeah, but we are going to see some of you there.
Yes, looking forward to that. I need to update the image. I've got a featured image here, and Joe Horn had originally agreed to speak, and this is on me for not noticing the change.
Well, yeah, I think the camps are that week. Because
when he agreed, there was a question as to whether Whispering Ponies Ranch would be able to hold camps this year.
Right.
There was a situation with insurance coverage that's been resolved, and so being right at the end of the camping season, Joe just can't get away. But Dr. Yigal German, who's the CEO, co-founder of the International Biblical Apologetics Association, a Messianic believer, originally from Israel, now lives in Chicago. Mm-hmm. He will be there, become friends with Yigal, and he looking forward to meeting him in person for the first time.
Yeah, he's been on your podcast a number of times.
Right. Dr. Mike Spalding, who's organizing the Go Therefore conference, is also on the board of directors, as am I, as is Corby Shuey, who's become a friend of ours, a pastor from Lancaster, Pennsylvania. So we are looking forward to that. Carl Gallups will be there as one of the featured speakers. Dr. Sherry Tenpenny, I just did an interview for her podcast this past week. Kenny C., David Hevner, Casper McLeod, Tom Dunn, Vicki Joy Anderson.
I know. It's going to be family get-together.
Yeah.
A lot of these folks, we've gotten to meet them and be with them so many times over the years that they've become family. And of course, Vicki Joy, she lives around here.
Right.
She really is like family.
She is. You can attend in person for $59. If you can't, if it's a little too late for you to make plans to go to the Dayton, Ohio area for the conference, you can stream it online for just $39. And the media team there at Neil Peterson's church, Pastor Neil Peterson's church, the Harvest Revival Center, is wonderful. They do a great job. So the video stream will be top-notch. And if you want to get both, if you're going to be there and you want to get an all-access pass, you can actually save $10 on the whole package. And that way you'll get access to the videos on demand later. So if you want to, when you get back home, say, hey, Carl Gallup's was just spectacular. I want to show you his presentation.
Oh, yeah.
Or, Tom Dunn. Just, you can do that. And again, you save $10 by doing that. GoThereforeConference.com is the website. And so that's where we will be next weekend rather than here. And of course, that means there'll be no Gilbert House Fellowship next weekend as well. There will be one tomorrow morning, though. And tomorrow, I'm really looking forward to this because on the schedule, we've got Psalm 82 and Psalm 83.
Oh, we'll never get to 83.
I think just Psalm 82, just picking that apart.
Oh, I know.
Will take a whole week. Take the whole
going to be
hour.
So exciting.
Yeah.
And of course, in August, when my eyes are really doing well,
yes.
I'm going to be speaking, and you're going to be speaking, and almost the whole Skywatch gang are going to be up in Springfield.
That is right. The Remnant Rising Conference. Joe Horn will be at this conference.
He will be.
Along with Nita Horn and Donna Howell, which means that between them and the two of us, it'll be essentially almost the whole Skywatch TV team. But you'll also get a chance to meet in person Mondo de la Vega.
Oh, his story is so good.
Yes. I mean, saved from the gangs of Los Angeles and now preaching the gospel. Jamie Walden, who is one of the most dynamic speakers you'll ever see.
More words per minute than anybody I know.
Nathan Reynolds, I'm looking forward to meeting him. He's got a story saved out of ritual abuse.
Yeah.
And so I'm sure he's going to have a lot to say about spiritual warfare.
And isn't Kenny going to be there too?
He's going to be in attendance. I don't think he's speaking, but Kenny is going to be at the conference. But Vicki Joy Anderson will be there. Tracy Tennant will be there. Dave Hodges, host of the Common Sense Show. Randy Conway, who's from here in the area. Stuart Rhodes. And I see I misspelled his name on our...
Is it RHO?
RHODES. Stuart Rhodes is founder of Oath Keepers. And he was one of those
prosecuted for a certain event.
For J6.
Yep.
So he will be there, and he'll have a story to tell, as will Kevin Shipp, former CIA operative.
Yeah.
So, yeah, some really, really fascinating stuff. And if you want to save $20 on the tickets, it's Gilbert House 20. I think we said Gilbert 20 last week. Gilbert House 20 saves $20 on the registration. And you can also get $10 off on the streaming video. If you can't attend in person, this will be in Springfield, Missouri, by the way, August 22nd through 24th. Streaming video is available. If you sign up right now, it's $49. If you wait until August 22nd, the first day of the conference, it is $59. So $10 off on the streaming video.
And you can fly into Springfield if you live far enough away that you just don't want to drive and you do want to attend.
Yep.
You can always fly into Springfield. It's a wonderful little airport, 10 gates. And that connects to just about anywhere through a hub. I think it's got maybe 10 hubs.
Dallas, Denver, Chicago, Charlotte,
Atlanta. So anyway, you can get here and you can rent a car if you want to because Branson is only an hour away from Springfield.
That is correct.
There's a lot to do in Springfield, a ton of things to do in Branson.
Yeah, and if you just want to spend the time there at the hotel, you can take the hotel shuttle. And so you don't need to rent a car if you don't want to.
That's true.
Yeah. Well, hi, Glory. Glory's back at the front door.
Oh, well, I will let her in.
So, Remnant Rising Conference information and registration at hearthewatchmen.com. That's hearthewatchmen.com. Again, it's August 22nd through 24th. And again, our tour of Israel, we told you about that. More information at gilberthouse.org/travel.
And by the way, I want to thank everybody. You guys not only support us through prayer, and I know you've been praying for our health, you also support us through finances. And I just want to say thank you. We sometimes get checks in the mail. And for example, just recently got a check, and I want to apologize. I don't have the letter in front of me, nor do I have your permission to give your name, even if I had it in front of me. But a lovely lady sent a little little letter. Mm-hmm. And she enclosed a check and she said, I've just got a feeling you guys need this right now. And there are times when those checks come in exactly when we do need it. And for that reason, Derek and I don't worry about finances. We know the Lord is always going to provide through one means or another. And so those of you sitting there and thinking, I'd love to help financially, but I can't. Hey, we don't solicit anything.
Yeah.
The Lord puts it on your heart. But we want to let you know that your prayers undergird us with a strength and a power that goes way beyond the dollar.
Yeah, amen to that. We are blessed beyond anything. It's almost like the widow that Elijah stayed with. Mm-hmm. That jar of oil keeps filling up, and it's like, okay, we're sure we I know. Because this year we've got some medical expenses that weren't
medical
expected.
Medical expenses, taxes, there are a lot of things that come along and you just think, or something breaks down, you suddenly have to replace an appliance and you're like, okay, all right, that's going to eat up, and suddenly everything that was eaten up is back again.
Yeah, which is really remarkable.
Yeah.
So again, but most of all, we just appreciate your prayer, and
we
that
really
is
do.
really
Thank
what
you so much for that. And your friendship. Helpful. Many of your comments and your notes, they mean a lot to us. We consider you guys family. Yeah. Because you are.
Amen. Well, again, tomorrow, some very exciting stuff as we get into Psalm 82. And I've been trying not to do as many interviews this year, and I know that there are some folks who've requested interviews, and I've said no. I said yes to several this week, a couple of them because they're with folks who we'll be seeing at upcoming conferences, and I wanted to talk to Sherry Tenpenny because she'll be one of the featured speakers next weekend. Talked with a young man named Ryan Pelton because he's going to be at the conference in August, and he is a performer down in Branson who is getting interested in this alternative Christian milieu, and he's interviewed a number of our friends like Aaron Judkins, Doug Hamp, and so on. And so talk with him, and also had the opportunity to talk with a fellow named James Dellingpole this week, who's an author, a columnist, commentator out of the UK. And he, not long ago, discovered the work of Dr. Michael Heiser.
If you hear strange noises, it's because I'm letting the dogs out the back door.
Yeah, they're in that stage of the day now where it's like they got to go out front, clear the front yard, then they've got to go out in the back and clear the backyard. And this will continue until it is time for the next nap cycle. So anyway, he's got his own podcast, and he's got another one that's devoted to the Psalms. And so we got to talking about Psalm 82, which is one of the most remarkable in the Bible. It was the psalm that got Dr. Michael Heiser started into the Divine Counsel research that led Mike to write The Unseen Realm, and has led so many to a deeper understanding of what goes on in the Bible. So tomorrow on the Gilbert House Fellowship, we will dive into Psalm 82, and we've got some stuff that will come out of that should be really, really exciting. If you want to understand more about the Unseen Realm, and I'm not talking about Mike's book, but I mean actually the Unseen Realm, make sure you're part of that podcast tomorrow. It should be uploaded by about noon Central Time.
Yeah, we try to get it done first thing in the morning, but sometimes we're a little lazy.
My first thing is a little later in the day than Sharon's first thing.
Yeah, I got up at 2:30 this morning, and you were up at 7:30?
About 7, yeah. Well, anyway, we will endeavor to have that out again by about noon tomorrow, and until then, I'm Derek Gilbert.
I'm Sharon Gilbert, and for Grace and Glory, who just collapsed onto the floor to get cool again. We love you guys. Thank you for listening. Bye-bye.
PID Radio is produced by Gilbert House and released under Creative Commons Attribution Non-Commercial No Derivatives 4.0 International License. Follow us online, Twitter @PID Radio, or the PID Radio page at Facebook. Join us each week for our online Bible study, the Gilbert House Fellowship, online at gilberthouse.org.